We are live.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Educator Innovator Hangout on Air. I'm your host, Ingrid Dahl from KQED, and this is my esteemed colleague, Annalise Wunderlich. Hello. Who hopefully all of you recognize from previous Hangouts. So this Hangout connects to the Letters of the Next President 2.0 project, which, as many of you may or may not know, engages and connects young people ages 13 to 18 as they research, write, and make media to voice their opinions on issues that matter to them in the coming election. So you can visit letters2president.org to learn more. Currently, this website is bringing together resources and opportunities for educators working with youth. And hopefully, late July / next month, we'll start publishing this site for the youth letters, both text and multimedia. So please sign up to learn more. This webinar today is connected to a summer series of opportunities for educators. And in fact, it's part of the Letters to the Next President 2.0 Summer Make Cycles for educators. This week marks the 5th Make Cycle, and we will focus today's discussion on how to make a video letter with your phone, highlighting storytelling, production, and distribution techniques. Thank you for joining us here today, and a special thanks to our guests for making the time to be here and host this week's Make Cycle. Thank you, guys. For those of you watching this Hangout live, we encourage you to post thoughts, ideas, questions via the Q&A feature embedded in the video player, or you can tweet questions and follow along using the hashtag 2NextPrez. That's the number 2, next, P-R-E-Z. Okay, so you probably want to see an example of a teen who's produced a letter or a short video product that may or may not have been done in 3 days and 6 hours. So our esteemed panelist, Janelle, would like to show you her video before she kicks us off into introductions. Leanna, could you please do it?
Sure.
There's like a certain way a woman is supposed to look, and I don't feel like I look like that. I do feel self-conscious about my hips and my butt and being too lumpy in certain areas and like really weird stuff. Are my arms too long? Whether or not I have a double chin. Every magazine, every photo shoot is photoshopped. So then it's not just being 100 pounds and big boobs and big butt and small waist. It's also now your skin has to be perfect and you need to be hairless and you need to have no acne. Why do you need to look like that? Why do you need to only be appreciated for your body at all? Cankles. Who the heck cares about cankles?
All right.
Hi, I'm Janelle, and I'm a youth filmmaker from San Francisco. I do everything from making music videos with cardboard animal heads to that video you just watched. And I'm excited to talk about making films since in today's age it's so accessible.
I'm Diana. I'm a film instructor at BAVC. I specifically teach The Factory, which is the advanced filmmaking program for high school youth. And I think, well, I started off filmmaking 13 years ago, and I thought it was going to be really hard. And, you know, with the technology back then, it wasn't the easiest, but I feel like a lot of people can just make films pretty easily nowadays, especially with YouTube and Vimeo, and then you can just turn on your computer and there's a camera right there. It's more or less about creating and piecing your story together versus like the nicest cameras that you have or like even the nicest software. I started off using Windows Movie Maker actually, and it's free and it's good. I think that, well, specifically for this project with Janelle, we gave them 3 days to work on it, and we offered them a variety of topics from body issues to social, racism, ableism, all that stuff, and they got to choose the ones that they were passionate about, and then work on their films. So we did a lot of pre-production on the first day. It was storyboarding, creating shot lists, what angles do you want, different types of angles, who's going to be your subject. And then the second day we focused on production, which was going out all day and just capturing what you need to capture. So everything from your interview to B-rolls to, you know, I don't know, more B-roll. And then the third day, they focused mostly on editing. So they used Adobe Premiere Pro, which is what we have here, which is industry standard. But like I said, it's just about piecing your story together, and just, you know, anything from having iMovie, Windows Movie Maker works just as well.
And my name is Chris Sloan. Janelle, I just want to say that's a really good video. You've got a lot of talent. I mean, that was a nicely done piece. So during the school year, I teach high school English and media at Judge Memorial in Salt Lake City, Utah. And right now I'm in Ireland, teaching with the overseas cohort of Michigan State University's Master in Educational Technology. And so, yeah, during the school year, I work with people like Janelle, you know, people who like to make media and they're teenagers, and they have a lot to say. And so, like Janelle showed, they have, you know, like their voice needs to be part of the dialogue that's happening right now. So yeah, happy to be here. I also work with the National Writing Project and KQED, helping out here and there.
Hello, my name is Rebecca Dryden, and I'm the Director of Elections Coverage for Fusion, which is a cable network and also a website. We're owned by Univision, and our goal is reaching young, diverse audiences. One of our big elections projects this season is called Dear Next President. We started off by making very polished, pre-produced videos. We did some with just sort of man-on-the-street interviews. We talked to celebrities. We talked to lawmakers. But then the idea to sort of get it out there, and then the idea was to turn it into a social media thing, to turn it into a movement, a hashtag, and to encourage people to raise up their voices and empower them to join the conversation in a way that you ordinary people really can. Since we have social media, you literally can just, if you put something out there, it can actually get to Hillary Clinton, to Donald Trump, to the folks who are actually running for president. And so we've done a lot lately of work with organizations and with schools, getting kids involved. And a big push that we've been trying to make lately is teaching people how to make their own videos, upload them onto, you know, Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or Snapchat or wherever, and use the hashtag Dear Next President, and just get it out there. One example of how it actually can work is we were putting out a bunch of these videos. We went to a whole bunch of schools and youth groups and community groups in Des Moines, Iowa, ahead of a presidential forum that we hosted there with the Democrats. And we started putting these videos out into social media, which is messages from kids, in the week leading up to the event. And Martin O'Malley's team, it was during the Democratic primary, saw the videos and started making his own response videos of, you know, I hear you, these are the things that you say that you're looking for, and here is my plan to address those things. And so it absolutely can get in front of the people that you want it to get in front of. So but what we've been doing more lately is, like I said, trying to get people to make their own videos, and kids especially, to get involved. And so we have a clip here ready to play, I think, that is from a high school in the East Village, and this is we shot a bunch of these on video and have a video that we put together, that our editors put together. But we did some of them where we just shot them to show kids how they could do it themselves. We just shot them on an iPad and just uploaded it straight. Literally, it was a 30-second proposition. It's like, look at the camera, say your message, and then you can upload it to social media. And this was one that we put on Twitter. Basically, how you'll see it now. I think we chopped off the very beginning, but we just uploaded it immediately to Twitter, like 30 seconds after he did it. And it got a ton of love at the time. Got lots of retweets. So this is I think he's a junior at Eastside Community High School in New York City, and he chose to make a rap about for his Dear Next President message. And so Leanna, I think you have that video.
Yep, I'm gonna cue it up really fast here. Make another brief appearance.
I love today.
All right.
Ready?
Ready.
What's up? My name's Felipe, aka Philly Fresh, and here's my rap for my next president. Dear next president, here's my message directed. Don't screw us over if you get elected. You'll be a new chapter on our everyday page. I have a few requests. One is raise minimum wage, more jobs for us, and easier transportation in every subway station. Oh, and please don't be a racist. Respectfulness, elegance for each and every resident. This is what I requested for our dear next president. Philly Fresh, you already know, 2016.
All right.
That was awesome. Thank you, Rebecca from Fusion. Super good. So as most listeners are aware, this is going to be a dialogue with our panelists, and I'm just moderating part of the conversation, but we have a couple of core questions that we're going to talk about. And of course, if you're interested in us asking our panelists a question, I believe you know what to do, so please do it. You can also tweet those questions, and Liana is checking on those. So I would say that my first question is really to start with Janelle, and for those who are also joining her on the panel to respond. But what are the kinds of advice you would give to other teenagers who might be hesitant to use video as a story to give something to the next president as like a, hey, here's what we want you to consider?
I say don't be hesitant. Video is such a powerful medium. It's like the combination of both audio and visuals really makes an impact. It's different hearing about people, like things people been through, like it's different actually seeing them.
And Chris, since you have such experience leading video production in your classrooms, like what would you tell the audience about some tips that you would like to share with them as a classroom teacher?
Well, there are a lot of things to think about, but just that first question actually first was kind of interesting. Like, what would you say to kids to get them to get their message out? Was that right? Yeah. Well, I think there's sometimes there's a hesitancy by students I teach because, when you put yourself out there and you make statements about things that are sometimes controversial, there's a risk of getting flamed. Trolls can come looking for you, and so there is kind of a real concern that some of the students I teach have about putting a message out there, especially on really hot button issues. So in that respect, I would say do your homework. Make sure that you know what you're talking about, because that's oftentimes my students one time did something on gun control, and that really fired up some people, no pun intended, and they were just like, they got after it and took to task some of the statistics that my students had. And actually, a couple of the things were accurate, you know, so like their delivery was pretty rough, but a couple times they actually had some decent points. So I would say, you know, like, first of all, you know, your voice is really important, but informed opinion is also really important. And so it doesn't take much to learn some important things about important issues, and so that would be first thing I would say. Second thing, like Janelle showed, is like you are fully capable of entering the conversation, and some of the things that Rebecca talked about, like, you know, those things can get in front of people who have power, and that's what it's all about, is getting youth to get their voice heard and to try to influence things, because the students I teach, a lot of times they're more reasonable than some of the adults that I voted for, or at least like when they talk. You know, like when you vote for people, I don't know what happens, but sometimes they transform and then they don't talk like they did when they were being elected. So I think it's really important for youth to get their voice heard, because like the people I teach, probably like Janelle, are actually really reasonable and thoughtful youth who have a lot to say. So I mean, that's my first thing. There's a lot more to say to that question, but that's like off the top of my head.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would also add, you know, we've encountered this a lot, people being hesitant to talk about, you know, what people say is, I don't really want to talk about politics, I don't want to get political, and one thing that we've found is that that's useful in that regard, and you're totally right, and it is scary, and it's especially scary when you're asking them to, you know, talk about politics and then put it on the internet. And so, you know, if people are really scared, you have to respect that. But, you know, one thing we talk a lot to folks about is, you know, I think what people are afraid of when they say they don't want to talk about politics isn't talking about politics. It's talking about, they're afraid of partisan politics. And, you know, so we encourage people, your message to the next president, like what you want the next president to focus on and do, doesn't have to be something that's overtly partisan politics. You know, it can be anything, like improvements that you see that you need in education, in your community, in your life, and so giving those kind of prompts and that sort of walking people through it that way has helped a lot. And we got one very young girl in Iowa. Her message was, I think a couple of things were lowering the cost of food and clothing, and then one of them was like, and don't deport my parents. And so it's just like when you put in front of them, like, what is the most important thing in your life that you think could be helped by the government, like that's a sort of, I think, helps get people around that idea or that worry of being overtly political or partisan.
Speaking from like a more youth development perspective, it's really important for us in our class in the factory here to create a very safe space for the youth to open up. A lot of these issues are very, could make, you know, put them in vulnerable positions. And the goal of our class is not to change anybody's opinion, but just to allow them to have a voice to share that. So even today, we spent about an hour talking about the Black Lives Movement, and it didn't really have anything to do with filmmaking in that regard, but just giving them a chance to speak their mind and share their opinion about all that. And then asking the question, how do you want to proceed, and how do you want to be an ally in the situation? And a lot of them came up with, you know, make a film. We have the resources here to do so. And I mean, personally, I come from like a more youth participatory action type of framework. So I try to, I see the students that I work with as colleagues more than just like a teacher-student relationship, and I think that creates some sort of trust between us and a bond, and will help them open up to me a bit more. And just, yeah, reinforcing that it's a safe space and that we're here to support their voices.
Great. Janelle, what do you think about all of that?
Yeah, I agree with everything, and I just say do it. Before, you kind of had to be really rich to make films, but now we have iMovie, we have iPhones, so it's very accessible, and you don't need expensive gear to make good stuff. It's like if if you're a baker, just because you have a really expensive stove doesn't mean suddenly your pastries are really good. It's the same thing with video content. You could just pull out your iPhone and start shooting.
Janelle, do you feel that a lot of teenagers who might not have immediate access to film production hesitate to use their phones to express their opinions that they might want a president to hear? Like, do you think there's fear on that? And, like, just curious what you think about that.
I do think it's hard expressing your political beliefs and putting your ideas out there. There's fear that you'll be judged for being too liberal, too conservative, caring too much about a certain identity. So that could come up.
Fusion, I'm curious, and Rebecca, maybe you could speak to how you all at Fusion combat that, because it sounds like you do similar work with what Diana was saying about building trust with young people so that they feel confident that they can express themselves and that there's an audience to hear their expression.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is we do a lot of work with organizations and schools that are already working with kids. It makes a huge difference. We had a sprinkling of younger kids when our first push of it was just like going out on the streets and just doing man on the street interviews, and every now and then there were like kids, and obviously they were there with their parents. But when we did more concerted efforts where we would reach out, like the young man from Eastside Community High School in the East Village in New York City, we had meetings with their teacher ahead of time, and so he did a whole lesson about civic engagement and about social media and how that plays into presidential elections, and had a group of kids who were already really sort of passionate and engaged, and the ones who really wanted to participate volunteered to do it, and he had really talked to them through the project, and he had shown them some videos of other kids who had done it and what the project was all about. And so that, I think, made a huge difference. Like you saw, the kid's rap was was great, and he clearly had put some thought into it. And like when we were in Iowa, we spent about a week and a half there going through community organizations and youth groups and churches, and working with the leaders of those groups who already had really good relationships with the kids and had that trust built in. And so sort of when we've arrived on those scenes, they very much were all kids who wanted to be empowered, and who wanted their voices to be heard, and so they were really excited to see us and to have us help them to express themselves and to participate in that way. So yeah, I think for us a lot of it was just finding the right way into these groups of kids.
Yeah, and I would add to that both of these stories, the BAVC and Fusion are and KQED and National Writing Project, it's not just a kid out there with a phone, it's actually the social network and the support system around them that seems pretty important here, that cuts across all these examples. And I don't know, I'm just kind of curious as to BAVC, this is maybe off topic a little bit, but Fusion and BAVC, why you do that, because having that, the things you're describing, Rebecca, going into the schools, working with that teacher, mentoring those kids, even if it is just putting up an iPad and filming it, still somebody has to show someone look how easy it is to get your voice out there. And then Janelle, probably you've experienced that too with your group, Diana, I don't know, just curious why you do that, because not every media outlet does that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, and that's like one of the really exciting things for me working at Fusion. It's a different media landscape, and I spent the previous, 10 or 12 years of my career working in cable and network news, and you're absolutely right. It's a totally different kind of place, and there's a real commitment to engaging young people, and and Fusion and Univision both are also really committed to to getting out the vote and to raising people's awareness, and they actually want people to get involved. That's like a core part of our mission is getting people to participate and getting people's voices to be heard. A huge problem with this younger demographic that we're aimed at, we're specifically targeting 18 to 25-year-olds, and they don't vote, and specifically what we're trying to do is take a political message and take the campaign to those largely comparatively unengaged audience members and say, you should pay attention, you can be engaged, and let us help show you why. But yeah, it's just this is our audience, and so the election is happening and it's important, and so one of our key goals and missions for this election season is to get that audience engaged and involved.
For me, I think just growing up, like I said, I started filmmaking 13 years ago, and that was before I realized that there were any after-school programs that taught you filmmaking, so I kind of had to teach everything to myself without YouTube. And growing up, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me in mainstream media, or talked like me, or came from the same place as me. I come from my mother's an immigrant, and I grew up here, and I just grew up watching I don't even know, shows that just didn't have proper Asian representation, or that we were always portrayed as with accents, or from a different country. I was born and raised in America, or in San Francisco in particular, and it was just kind of very exhausting not seeing anybody who looked like me, and kind of just seeing one particular story all the time. So the reason, why I got into this work was to spread the message about this and kind of inspire people who look like me to create media and share their own stories, or other people who are misrepresented or underrepresented. So I purposely go out and do outreach for BAVC, looking for people who might not have a platform to share their stories like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the reason why I joined BAVC was that it's just a really good community of filmmakers. It's so much easier when there's a group of people to help you with things, and we get to discuss stuff like social justice and prejudice, which has been really helpful in my life and my place in society, and understanding the politics that come with it.
That's such a great conversation, you all. Wow, you've hit so many important points. But I'm curious, because of the listeners and viewers, how would you recommend integrating media making in the classroom, though? Maybe Janelle, since you just left high school, in reflection, you could kind of kick us off with that.
Oh, I think that teachers can assign video projects. At Lowell, I've had 4 or 5 so far, and it's just a great platform for both teachers and students. For students, it's fun to make. People who I'm fine doing notes and stuff, but it's also helpful to do untraditional ways of learning. And as for the teachers, you really see how much information the students absorb by watching the videos, and seeing how much they understand. For example, my teacher, Mr. Hereford, for Shakespeare sonnets, instead of doing like a test on them or essay on them, we did a video on it, and you could just see the level of understanding that the students get, like the imagery that they use.
I think because media making is more accessible than it used to be. Like I said, you can just turn on your computer and your webcam's right there, and you can make anything. I think it's just like more. It could relate more to the young people who are like, you know, there are billions of followers on YouTube, and I think it's inspiring and like just kind of like a cool platform that young people see nowadays as like a way to get their message out there. But I also feel like because it's so accessible now, I feel like we have a responsibility to teach the next generation how to use it responsibly, and not just, you know, make videos that about like cats or something. And as much as I love like cat videos and baby videos, those are great and entertaining too. I think it's important to share how you can use media making as a platform to talk about broader issues or broader social justice issues.
Also, what would you rather watch, like a 5-minute presentation of someone standing in front of the classroom or a 5-minute video? Like, would you rather watch that 1-minute video about body image, or have me like standing in front of the camera, like just talking about body image? Painting.
Yeah, I think I'd add on what Janelle's talking about. Like so far she's mentioned like the English classroom and then kind of like a health thing, really. If you think about school, Ingrid's question about like how can teachers incorporate video production into their classroom, like you know, those are two examples right there. And one hand, it's easy for me to say because one of the classes I teach is it's called New Media. You know, and so it's like we do documentary of the school in whatever media makes sense for that particular story. But I also think like any subject lends itself to video production because like people learn, one way we learn is through experts. And so like one thing you can do is just turn a camera on someone who's an expert in something and then, you know, learn from them and then, you know, edit that to the parts that seem to be most relevant. And I think that applies to any subject. And it's worth your while, like Janelle said, like you can listen to a lecture, but you know, if you get someone talking about a subject who is an expert, you know, like that's another way and maybe a better way for people to learn in a lot of subjects.
Thank you, that's helpful. There was a question from National Writing Project just around why you all think storytelling is important, because clearly you do. Please explain that to the audience.
Well, I guess my mic's still on, so you know, like storytelling is important for youth because narrative is a way for the longest time we've been, you know, relating to the world and explaining the world. And so like storytelling, narrative is a powerful form. And, you know, in our testing culture these days, I think narrative is maybe underserved because, you know, argument and information writing is considered, you know, paramount these days. But I think narrative drives the whole thing, you know, like narrative is a way to package argumentation and narrative is a way to relay information. So to me, narrative is just powerful.
To add on to that, I think it's important to do storytelling because we've been doing it for forever. Like cavemen have been doing it, we've been doing it all these years. Also, if you look at the college application process, there's your grades, like your GPA, your SAT, but there's also this whole other part, the the college essay, which is the story. They want to know who you are, where you're from. It's just as important as your results.
I also feel like our society doesn't really give young people the opportunity to speak up, or they're treated like they don't know any better. But obviously, like it was mentioned before, that I think they're completely aware of what's going on, and they have the complete ability to participate in conversations, like about politics or social justice or whatever. And I think, I've had kids who sit in the corner and not talk, and I ask them, like, what do you think? And they're completely shocked, like, that I'm here to listen, and that there is someone here to listen to their story. And I think, like I said before, I think it's just important for them to develop their own voices and realize that it's important to share.
Thank you. Rebecca, what do you think about storytelling? Why is it important to you in Fusion?
I also think, I guess, for us specifically, and I think for all media, stories are what reach people. Because our ultimate goal, obviously, is for people to read our stuff, to watch our stuff, and I think absolutely the power of the narrative is how you hook people in and how you get people interested. And so I think that's, yeah.
Okay, we're connected again. Sorry, Rebecca, please continue.
Oh, sorry, bad connection. Yeah, I was just saying that I think that the narrative and storytelling is how you reach an audience, is how you get people, is how people relate to you and people connect to you. And those are exactly the ways when you talk about, Hillary Clinton discovering someone's story online, and then they become the story that the candidates end up telling on the campaign trail. That's all narrative. That's all because someone tweeted out a video, or someone told a story to a newspaper reporter in a way that was compelling and connected in a human sort of way to probably initially someone on that politician's, on Hillary Clinton's staff. But I think that's how, not only how we reach out to powerful people and how we connect with them, but how we, as the storytellers, as the media company, how we reach the audience is by telling them. And it goes back to some of what was being said earlier about just seeing yourself reflected back in the media that you consume, because it's also about having a diverse array of voices telling the stories, and that for us I think makes a huge difference. Like just having diversity in the newsroom and diversity of the people asking the questions, the people telling the stories, the people doing the reporting, just makes a huge difference in the story that gets told and the way the story gets told and the audience that it reaches.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. I had a question around what are some 3 common mistakes that people do in trying to capture stories using your phone? Anyone can answer.
Yeah. One thing is that they hold up the iPhone like this, which creates like black bars on the edge, which is really so if you just simply turn it like that, that makes it a whole lot better.
Unless you're shooting for Snapchat, right?
And I was just going to say, how I've seen hundreds of student submissions now coming in through the various letters to next president media makes that we've been doing throughout the spring. And tripods obviously are a luxury, but there's a lot of things you can do with your body to create a tripod effect. And leaning against a door jamb, putting your arms over a chair and sitting backwards in a chair, and just anything you can do to kind of stabilize your arms, or invest in one of those. I don't think they cost that much. But shaky cam is definitely one of the big things. And then the only other thing I just want to add is audio. I think students often underestimate how important good audio, clear audio is to getting their message across. So anything they can do to reduce background noise. Since you're probably not going to have an expensive external mic to plug into your phone, you should look for a quiet place that doesn't have a lot of background noise. It's tricky with all the citizen journalism happening now, where you want to be in the middle of the action, on the streets, capturing things as they happen. But just make sure if you're going to do that, you have an external mic or a low lav mic. Those are my two big tips.
You could also stack your phone on books or anything, but I think Daiso sells phone tripods for like $1.50. So, and you can also hold your breath while you're recording. That usually stabilizes it. In terms of audio, I think you might need like some sort of external audio, whether it's like a lavalier or like a microphone that you just have. Even using your headphone microphone.
Another thing is get different shots. You want the content to be interesting. There's a reason why movies aren't set in one room with one shot for an hour. Mix it up. Unless you're Andy Warhol.
Yeah. That was hard to watch too.
Oh, Bayback. Rebecca, what would you say?
I agree with all that, especially the hold your phone this way. As a longtime television news producer, I wanted to just like go to every like protest and every witness who might ever witness something and shoot video of it and give them just like that one instruction to please hold your phone in landscape. I think that's the biggest thing. I think also sometimes we've seen some of these where people like shoot them themselves in selfie mode, and I think the cameras on the other side is a much better camera. And so if you have a friend who can hold the camera for you, that's definitely better. You're going to get a higher quality, especially once you then upload it and it gets compressed, and then the quality suffers quite a bit.
Great, thank you. So what are some advantages then to making a video letter with your phone?
I mean, I think for me, and we've done this, like I said, we've done this a lot of different ways because this is sort of a big project. So we did a ton of these videos that were highly edited and produced in like fancy big cameras and editors and studios, and we took days and days on them. And we've also done the exact opposite, which is like the video that we showed at the top of this presentation with just like the iPad on the kid, and it's one shot and he does his thing. And I think like one of the main advantages is just like accessibility and ease of use. And you can even do, there are edit programs that you can install that are free on your phone that you can do some basic simple editing with. I use Cameo from Vimeo. Which is, I mean, you are not going to do like super fancy stuff with it, but you can make cuts, and they have filters, and you can do, and it's also really amazing how with just a little bit, literally, you can spend 5 minutes on your phone and make like a cute, funny. One of our correspondents, Collier Meyerson, made an early Dear Next President on her phone to sort of show people how to do it, and it was really it was like 15 seconds long, and it just had like 3 cuts in it, and the cuts were just like, it was sort of funny and effective because it just like it's just like that funny like cutaway, and then it cuts and she's like in a slightly different position with another thing, and it was just like super cute, but the whole thing probably took her a total of 6 minutes. So the fact that you can do an like you can plan and execute and just like fully be done with something in such a short amount of time, and with like what's right in front of you, like you don't have to spend hours in an edit bay, and you don't have to like have a light set up and fancy cameras and that kind of stuff, I think is like the biggest advantage.
I had a question about that. Does Cameo, does that cost?
No, it's free. It's a free app made by Vimeo. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's super simple. And there are tons of them, and I have not tried out a lot of them. Like a friend recommended it to me, and I tried it, and I mainly do video compilations of my 2-year-old with it. But It's great for that. You can I know there's some that are also free that you can I think even in Cameo you can put music underneath it. There's lots of options that's all like with your finger on your phone.
Yeah, because I was messing around with Wii Video, and that was kind of like they watermark it, and it's limited, you know.
Oh yeah, this isn't actually. Cameo might be better for that, and it'll hook up to. You can upload it directly to Vimeo, and
Okay.
it's just a video, and you can send it to Facebook, send it to Twitter. All that stuff is like straight in the app.
And I think BAVC people will probably talk about it, but to me that's a big part is like you can film it and upload the raw stuff, but like how do you actually, for this particular make, right? Like how do you make it look a little bit better? So
yeah, and one thing that I think makes that's easier when you're using those like iPhone free editing apps is shoot a lot of very short clips, and then you just load them all up into a timeline. And if they're short, they're easy with your because your finger is not, when you're actually using editing software, you can go like frame by frame. This is not that sophisticated. It's like your finger moving it. But if you have very short clips, it's really easy, like 10 seconds at a time. It's really easy to chop out to the parts that you want.
Another advantage with using the iPhone is I feel like when you have a fancy camera, the real thing that's important for videos is composition, and that kind of gets diluted when you need to adjust like the ISO and the aperture and the f-stop and like focusing the camera. So the iPhone gives you a really basic thing to focus where it's important. Also, it takes a lot less time.
Well, one of the benefits of Letters to President.org, and of course the project that we're all part of, is there is a wonderful role that public media plays in having access to a great and wide audience. So we do have a tweeted question, which I'm going to read off a different screen for the audience, and it is: how important is it for students to have access to a wide audience for their voices to feel validated?
I feel like Janelle should take that one.
Can you repeat the question?
Yes, ma'am. How important is it for students to have access to a wide audience for their voices to feel validated?
I think it is important. If you put something on YouTube and it gets like 40 views, you feel like your voice isn't very important. But just
go ahead.
I feel like to solve that, you could just post it. We have so much social media. Post it on Facebook, post it on Instagram, and suddenly your friends and family have access to something created.
Yeah. So, I mean, just as a classroom teacher, I've seen it where when students get feedback from someone they don't know, like a comment from a peer in another city or something like that, that's really motivating. And I can't say that enough. It's like you could say to your own circle of friends like they liked it, because your Instagram friends and they like a lot of your stuff. But I think when people start to get comments and positive comments in particular from people who are not their in their face-to-face or physical community, to me, I've seen that that it's really a highly motivating thing. So I think it is validating to know that your stuff is reaching beyond your immediate network.
I just wanted to add that I wanted to piggyback off what Chris just said, because I think just like for adults, there's such a tendency for echo chambers to happen on social media, where you're posting your message and your voice, but it's just getting likes from mostly people that agree with you. And there's something really powerful about dialogue that's possible through something like Letters to the Next President, where you're not only getting your voice out there, but you're connecting with other youth around the country, and they're experiencing maybe similar things in their own communities or something quite different. And the dialogue that can come from that is so rich, and there's a real big learning opportunity, not only for youth, but for teachers too, to kind of have a little window into the rest of the country for their students if they participate in something like this.
And it kind of goes back to that idea of like these networks that already exist, like allowing the youth to, you know, become part of that network and spread that word. I think it's really important for the fusions and the KQEDs and national writing projects and BAVCs of the world that, you know, that exists. Like, it's really important work.
Absolutely. So you've been in a robust and very animated and informative panel, but are there any final thoughts that you want to share with our audience before we make it a wrap? And anyone can chime in. Final tips, resources, thoughts?
Well, I feel like I just had a final thought, but you know, it doesn't stop me. No, just to continue that like, I think really, like, you know, people like Janelle, I think it's really important that they have that voice, because she's got talent, and she has that support. So I think really, you know, the next generation I have a lot of hope for them, because, you know, in a lot of ways, my generation has kind of fallen short, I think, with the media making and the public conversation. So that's my thing, is like, these opportunities for youth are really important for all of us.
Yeah, I would echo that and just say we just think it's so important right now with the election happening this year to that young people understand that they do have a voice and they, you know, they can participate. And we have you can browse a ton of these videos. We've made like literally over 100 of these videos, and you can browse them at dearnextpresident.com. And I think there's also, we have a link to just a little cheat sheet of how to make your own video, which has some of those tips we talked about, like holding your phone in landscape and, you know, get a friend to shoot it and that kind of stuff. And, oh, yeah, it was tweeted. So all of that is available. And, yeah, I think I would just close with encouraging, you know, anyone who has access to kids to encourage them to speak up. I think it's our experience with it is that it's been really empowering to these kids, and a lot of them we've tried specifically to target diverse populations of kids, and you know, in different socioeconomic backgrounds, and in most cases, you know, kids who probably don't feel a lot of power in their lives in lots of ways. And I think being able to speak out in this way actually did empower them and made them feel like they had a voice. And so I think it's been really positive.
I don't know, great resources, BAVC. So the internet is great. You can learn anything you want to.
I think technology is growing, it continues to grow, and I think it's important to stay in conversation over everything, and how I think it's important to, yeah, share diverse stories, like it was said, share diverse stories, and teach the young people how to, you know, tell the truth about things. Media tends to kind of manipulate its audience, and I think that it's important that the next generation is able to share all different perspectives.
Well, thank you so much. I want to especially thank our esteemed guests and to thank all of you who are watching. If you'd like to keep up to date on future opportunities, please sign up for the monthly newsletter at educatorinnovator.org and follow Educator Innovator on Twitter. You can follow the handle innovates_ed. And especially, please don't forget to follow the hashtag #2nextprez and the Twitter account for more on Letters to the Next President 2.0. There's a wonderful website at letters2president.org, and if you could encourage teacher colleagues to sign up, that would be fantastic. So please do, and thanks again.
Thanks, everyone.